Okay, hi everyone. Okay, this is just a quick, I suppose it's a talk and walk, this one. And what I wanted to really talk about today was I've been watching a lot of the Burpees community and doing their all these great variations. And as I've been watching, I have noticed that there are styles of training that are not being done, that are scientifically really sound. So I just thought I would post a video on this just to give a few thoughts really on ways to improve the training. Now, there's two principles that are involved in this really. The first is overload. It's a training principle used in all sorts of training, sports, everything really. The principle is that you work harder, you overload your system so that you can make improvements. And the usual way that works is it's an increase in intensity. So you do something harder, you do it faster. The rate at which you work is greater. The other principle is interval training. Now, with regards to interval training, this is obviously, the principle where you have a period of work which is harder than normal, so harder than your normal pace. And then you have a rest, enough rest to recover enough so that you can go hard again at that harder than normal pace. One great example was Roger Bannister, obviously the guy that broke the 4-minute mile, first guy to break the 4-minute mile. One session that he wanted to do was 10 times 400 metres in 60 seconds, each one with a minute's rest. So 400 metres in 60 seconds with 1 minute's rest 10 times. His research showed that if he could do that, he thought he would be fit enough to be able to do the 4-minute mile. And just before he broke the 4-minute mile, he managed to do that session. So he did it, I think it was something like, could have been the week before, he did do that session, and then he broke the 4-minute mile. So interval training was, a big part of his routine. And it's one thing that I don't see being done in the Burpees community. So for example, one guy that I've watched recently, and he's doing some great sessions in Burpees, I think it's Max at Busy Dad Training. Been enjoying his channel. You do a little bit of analysis on some of the sessions, and it seems like, for example, the Navy SEALs session where you try to do as many as you can in 20 minutes, I think his PR might be about 150. If you could split that session down into, let's say, you were doing 10 Navy SEALs per minute, and you could do 10 times 1 minute of that with a minute's rest, or build up to 20 1 minutes with a minute's rest. Then in that session, even though that session would take 39 minutes to do, you have in your body the equivalent of 200 Navy SEALs at a rate of 10 per minute. So you do 20 sets of 1 minute at 10 a minute. So your body is being subjected to that pace on a more regular basis. You can't expect to move at a particular pace if you don't actually experience that pace in your training. Like I say, an example session might be you'd start off with 10 sets of 1 minute with a minute's rest, but each set has to be at a pace of 10 Navy SEALs per minute. Now that number is obviously going to vary according to your standard. For some people it might be 5 or 6. So basically it's a case of breaking down the session into periods of higher intensity and then rest, higher intensity again and then rest, and using that to experience more often a higher level of intensity. Because at the end of the day, it's intensity that is going to increase your performance. You know, once you have a background for the quantity that you've built up, then it comes down to an injection of intensity. And the best way to introduce that intensity is with interval training. And it was just something that I hadn't seen done. It was every session was sort of a go hard for a period of time. Every athlete in the world will use interval training. So hopefully that's a bit of food for thought anyway. I've got another video that I'm going to follow on from this one actually, about variation in your training for longevity versus specificity for a goal-orientated training. So yeah, there'll be a link. That one's next. Okay, cheers.